Okay, should we get started? Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started in a minute or two. Okay, we're going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending. Thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Rocky Wiles. I'm the Division Chief of the Compliance and Enforcement Division here at DCR. Today we'll be discussing the requirement for the upcoming 2027 renewal cycle, which at minimum is to retain a licensed architect or engineer. However, today's webinar is really about helping you prepare early so that you don't run into delays after. Our goal is to not simply explain this year's renewal requirement, but to help you understand how today's actions fit into the larger roadmap toward obtaining your DCR operating permit by the deadline of January 1, 2031. Next slide. So before we jump in, here's a quick overview of what we'll go over today. We'll briefly touch the renewal roadmap as a whole before shifting our focus to the 2027 renewal requirement for this year. By the end of today's webinar, you should understand what you need to submit this renewal cycle, which begins in September, how to begin preparing now, what documents you will need, how to retain an architect or an engineer, and where to find help. We also have a special guest joining us later that will speak to the things that you should consider when hiring an architect or an engineer who will be preparing your plans. At the end, we'll do our best to go through as many questions as time allows. Next slide. Okay, so this is the renewal roadmap at a glance, which details everything that needs to be done in order to obtain your DCR operating permit by January 1, 2031. As you can see here, we are at the very beginning of the timeline. So we're at marker 1, which is the pre-submittal research phase. Now is the time to start gathering building records for your business premises and hiring an architect or engineer to prepare your plans. We really want to stress how crucial it is that you hire an architect or an engineer during this renewal cycle, because you will not be able to progress through the process or complete any of the other steps without first doing this part. Although this renewal year's requirement is relatively straightforward, which is retaining an architect or engineer, it's actually the first domino in a series of milestones. Each step builds upon a previous one. Basically, without having your plans, you cannot begin the LADBS plan check process. Without having your plan check, you won't be able to receive the clearance summary worksheet that is actually due next year. Without that clearance summary worksheet, you won't be able to meet next year's milestone. And without completing these milestones, you cannot obtain your operating permit before the required deadline of January 1, 2031. So as you can see here, as I was mentioning, we are at the first step. This year, you're supposed to, if you're in a good place, you're supposed to have your plan submitted. But for now, at minimum, like I said in the beginning, you should be retaining, hiring an architect or an engineer to begin those preparation of those plans. Next year, you have to show that not only did you submit plans, I'm sorry, we will be requiring that you give us your application number that verifies that you submitted those plans to building and safety. Next slide. Okay, so now to the very first part in that roadmap, which is today's focus. So basically, you need to prepare to meet the requirements for starting this September, which is the 2027 renewal cycle. September, is right around the corner, so it's important to get started as soon as possible. By November 2nd, 2026, you'll need to submit the LIC 4025 form and attest to one of the following statements. One, that you've retained a licensed architect or engineer. Two, that you've received a building permit application number from LADBS. Or three, that you've done neither one of those things. If you hire an engineer, you also need to include their name and license number when you renew. If you've obtained a building permit application number, you'll have to provide that to us. Building permit application number will only be applicable if you have already initiated the planchette process with building and safety. This year, DCR is giving you the option to claim a one-time hardship extension. If you require more time to retain an architect or engineer, just check that box in the 4025 form to let us know that that's where you're at in the process. However, keep in mind that this does not push any of the other deadlines back. This requirement is to basically truthfully indicate where you are in the process when you renew, not where you hope to be by the end of the year. So basically, there are three paths that are represented here. Some of you may have already hired an architect or engineer. Some of you may have already started the permitted process with building and safety, and others may still be getting organized. And that's why we've included this one-time hardship extension as an option. Next slide. Do we want to show them or click on if you go back one slide, Toby, yeah, just click on the form. I think it's a link. So yeah, and I think we're going to go over this later, but this is basically the form. Okay. Let's get back to slide number 4. Yeah. Actually, now we're on slide number 5. All right, so let's discuss how to meet this year's renewal requirement and prepare yourself to meet future requirements. So basically, researching the property's historical records is what you should be doing right now. That's where you should be. Your architect cannot prepare accurate plans without understanding what currently exists on the property where your business premises is located. Historical permits, plot plans, certificates of occupancy, previous tenant improvements, all of these help avoid unnecessary redesigns later. Starting these tasks simultaneously can save weeks or even months. The architect or engineer that you hire will need to refer to these historical records from building and safety to prepare your plans. You can access these documents through the LADBS online record system, which if you want to click on that, Toby, the LADBS online record system on the previous slide. Yeah. or by submitting a records research request to building and safety. Yeah. So this is where you do it. What Toby's showing is how you do it online. This is, you can do your own research, or you can request it through building and safety. Yeah. So that's the request form. Yeah. Here you would just check, and we'll show you that later in the presentation, which boxes you should be checking. So you can do it yourself if you're familiar with, what documents to get, or you can just ask building safety to do it for you. Once your plans are ready, you download the DCR referral form, the 4025 form, from your Acela account, which has been prepared specifically for your location and for those cannabis activities that you wish to conduct. Okay. Next slide. So a couple of important notes for your architect or engineer that they may not be aware of when preparing your plans. So, and this is one of the most common mistakes that are made when submitting plans to building and safety, where commercial cannabis activity will be conducted. First of all, do not mention the word cannabis on your plans. LADBS reviews construction, not business licensing. So yes, they review plans based on the proposed use or future occupancy of the building. But if the use is not listed as an official land use in the zoning code, as it is with cannabis activity, then the plan checker will select the use that most closely resembles that specific activity. This is why DCR is providing the INT 4001 form mentioned in the previous slide. That form includes the uses that building and safety, in collaboration with us, with DCR, has agreed on that match specific commercial cannabis activity. Your architect or engineer will need to refer to those uses for the preparation of your plans. Okay, so for instance, cultivation is not something, or cannabis cultivation is not one of the uses that's listed in the zoning code, but the form that you will see that it's in your records shows you what use you should put on your plans when you're submitting. So the plans with this form basically gives the plan checker, a good idea of what you will be doing at your location. Secondly, as we mentioned, you must submit your plans to building and safety in order to receive the clearance summary worksheet needed for next year's renewal cycle, for the 2028 renewal cycle. Without that worksheet, you cannot progress through the renewal process and meet future requirements. Next slide. So this is the records research request form. If you're planning to request records from LADBS instead of doing it yourself, this is the form you will use. As detailed on the slide, the copies are 10 cents per page, and you'll want to request at a minimum the items checked on the slide, which are the building permits, plot plans, and certificates of occupancy. That will tell the plan checker what the current use is, what the current parking is, the current construction. They have to know what the current conditions are and where you want to, what the proposed use and the proposed construction is. So they have to see both. You can also access these documents online for free, going through the LADBS records search system linked on the previous slide. That's the other slide the other link that we just showed you. Next slide. Okay, this is the INT 4001 form. So once your plans are ready, you will need this form to submit them to building and safety. This form helps coordinate communication between DCR and LADBS. You don't complete it yourself, but you're responsible for making sure that DCR completes its portion before you submit your plans to building and safety. You can access and download this form from your account in Acela. The form has been prepared specifically for your location and for your activities, and it resides in the Documents tab on your licensing record. While plan submittal to DBS is not something that must be completed during the 2027 renewal cycle that starts this year, It will be required to meet the requirements for the following year. So we recommend submitting your plans as soon as possible. Next slide. Okay, so when looking for an architect or engineer, you can reference the Department of Consumer Affairs website to find active licensed engineers and architects. Go ahead and click on the website, Toby, while I'm talking here. Here on the slide, we have some filters you can use that will help narrow your search to licensed individuals in LA. It should be noted that there are thousands of professionals in this database. So you'll still want to utilize Google search, online reviews, and anything else that will help you narrow it down to somebody that's, will suit it for your project. Yeah, so as you can see. Thank you, Toby. Yeah, so for instance, I think we were gonna show you guys, a few, Frank Gehry. I don't know if anybody here has heard of him, but famous architect, and apparently his license is still active. So he's no longer active. You click search, and did it show you? Oh, I guess it didn't. No. I don't think you leave a space. Maybe that's what it is. Oh, there we go. There he is. He's an architect. He's current. I guess his license is still current till next year. Okay, so I wouldn't recommend using him. Okay, well, yeah, we can go back to the slide. So rather than hearing only from DCR today, we wanted you to hear directly from somebody who knows, who works in this process every day. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide. Let me introduce you to Netanel Pressman, who will provide guidance and tips when hiring an engineer or architect. He's the founder of NP Line Design, which is a full service design build general contractor with 10 plus years of experience completing projects and navigating the LADBS permitting process. He's joining us to set some realistic expectations about what an architect can do for you, the costs, services, and generally what you can expect from this part of the permitting process. I'm going to hand it over to Netanel. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you for having me. Can you hear me, guys? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so basically the reason of hiring an architect, I would say not only an architect, you want somebody to handle all the stuff. We all been a clients once, and sometimes we don't like to have, all these headaches. Oh, he's gonna draw this, and I'm gonna submit, and I need to find other people to sign and make it happen for me. So I would say not only an architect, you need somebody to run the situation, to make you ready. That's what I would recommend. And then comes the permit runner, people that have experience with the city. The cost, it's vary from project to project. So if you pay, and you need to get result. It's not just, okay, I'll draw you the plans, and then you're gonna find what to do with them. As early as we start, the early result gonna come. That's what I would say. Research can take time. Not everything you can find online. So you might gonna need to go and ask for it personally and clarify stuff. Zoning, everything needs to be checked. It's very important. Price is vary from $1 to $3 square feet. The city needs to give you an answer within 14 business days of the submit. If there is any correction, anything missing, they have to give you within 14 days. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it's not. And that's where you need the person that's going to get in contact with the plan checker and find what needs to be corrected. There is a bunch of architects over there. I'm not saying, on myself, on my business, that we are the best. Don't get me wrong. But everybody make mistake, and you want to get away from the situation as fast as possible. And if there is any correction, they need to be addressed ASAP. Otherwise, as a client, you're going to wait. And every time that you wait, you go back to the end of the line and start all the process again. That's what I would say and recommend for everybody to do as clients. From my experience, 10 years in the business, within 3 months, you're able to get any permit that you need. Unless there is very complicated situations which not supposed to appear on this case. Do you have any questions for me?
We'll have questions at the end of the segment.
Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to get my camera back on here. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Netanel. All right, so we're back on hardship extension. Yes, and just to emphasize, this year, we're not expecting you to submit plans, although it would be great if you had, because, like Netanel says, everything takes time, right? And, once you submit, you may have corrections that you need to address, and then you have to go back. So, and by next year, you need to have submitted plans so that you can show us your plan check number, your application, your permit application number, and your clearance summary sheet. And I'm sure we'll have other webinars that will, that will show you what is expected of you next year. Okay, so we heard from many of you regarding this requirement. We understand that these deadlines are coming up fast. So to help folks with this year's requirement, DCR will allow a one-time hardship extension this year. Let me emphasize, this gives you extra time. It is not a skipped requirement. This extension does not move any of the other deadlines, okay? So all the other deadlines remain the same. So if you want this extension this year so that you can renew and buy yourself, a little more time, you can do that. But next year, you still have to meet those deadlines that are set for next year. Okay, so just emphasizing, it is not a skipped requirement. It's just, and it doesn't move any of the other deadlines. If you claim a hardship this year, next year you'll still have to submit your evidence that you've submitted plans to building and safety, and you have to provide us with the building permit application number and a copy of the in progress clearance summary worksheet. So let's see, refer back to if you click on the 4025 form, and then click on that till we, so there is a box, I believe on this form, where you can check, there's a box on here where you can check to let us know that you're requesting an extension. Those are your 3 choices. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is what we just showed you. Okay, yeah, next slide. Okay, so, sorry, if you can hear the other side, it's very good. We understand that the renewal process as a whole can be a lot to understand. So we urge you to seek out available resources as needed. If you're wanting one-on-one help, check out the LADBS Restaurant and Small Business Express program to potentially be assigned a case manager through building and safety, and they will be able to help you through the design, bidding, and construction phases of the project. They basically help you navigate. Okay, they're not going to do any of these things for you. They'll just basically help you navigate the process. DCR has also put together a renewal milestones booklet with detailed information on navigating this process. And as always, if you have questions, you can reach out to DCR directly. Please remember the ultimate goal is obtaining your DCR operating permit by January 1, 2031. So, adjust your expectations. Just because you hire an architect or an engineer this month, that doesn't mean that you will have the permits in hand by next month. Okay, so maybe many of you may not know the process, but it doesn't happen that quickly. So don't wait until the last minute. This process is a multi-agency process that takes time. Beginning early gives you the best opportunity to meet each milestone without unnecessary stress. The best time to begin is now. Even if your renewal isn't due until November, architects, engineers, and permit professionals, as Netadel mentioned, like even permit runners or permit expediters, they're all busy. They all have busy workloads. So starting early gives you a lot more flexibility and more time to address unexpected issues. Next slide. And I believe, this is, that's the end of the slides. So we're going to open it up now for some Q&A.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm sorry, Rocky. Good morning or good afternoon, all. The first question comes from Anahi T. If you submit an entity substitution before renewal, do you still have to pay the renewal fee or just a mod fee?
Hello, everyone. You're so welcome, Gidget. I'm just kidding. Great job, Rocky, on the presentation. My name is Ryan Solis. Hopefully you can all hear me. I assume I'll hear something otherwise. I am the licensing director here at DCR. I'll be happy to answer that question. It's a good question. It also kind of gives an opportunity to review for everyone what records are required to renew each and every year. So related specifically to that question, it kind of had two pieces on the entity sub and the renewal fee and the mod fee. For the modification fee side of things, an entity substitution modification doesn't have a specific modification fee associated with it. This is because if you are processing an entity substitution modification, the result of that, if it's successful, is a brand new annual license application. So you have the application fees associated with that will be the new fees. There's not a separate individual specific modification fee. So there's no mod fee to be paid there for that part of the question. And then getting to the renewal fee part of the question, like I mentioned, I wanted to review what records are required to be renewed each year, because I think that kind of answers this question here. The records that are required to renew each year include annual licenses, either with or without operational status. If you've achieved an operating permit, you'll need to renew. Applications that are not quite at annual licensure yet, but applications with operational status, those records need to renew. And lastly, applications that have achieved a status of local compliance underway here at the city. To clarify that a little bit on the local compliance underway, that is achieved once an annual license application has been submitted and all associated fees have been paid. So with that in mind, on the records that are required to be renewed, DCR looks at all the records that need to be renewed as a snapshot in time as of September 1st, when the renewal season opens. Wherever the record is at that moment in time, that's the calculus that we're doing in determining if the record is required to renew or not. So back to the kind of this original question here, the specific part of the question regarding an entity substitution. If you do submit an entity substitution application in advance of the renewal season, sometime between now and September, and that modification is approved, a new application would be created, like I mentioned. And if those fees are paid and the local compliance underway is achieved before 9/1, then yes, that new record would be subject to renewal for 2027 and required to pay those subsequent fees. if the new record, if you go through that same process, entity substitution in advance, it's approved, but it's too close to the renewal timeline, it's right around September, you don't achieve that local compliance underway status by 9/1, maybe you achieve it sometime later in September, or even October, whenever it might be, that record will not be subject to renewal for 2027, and therefore there wouldn't be any renewal fees associated with that. That would come into play in the following renewal cycle in 2028. So hopefully that helps answer that specific question there, and also kind of in a general way as well for folks that to understand which records need to be renewed and kind of the timing of that. Thanks, Gidget.
Thank you, Ryan. The next two questions are for Rocky. The first one, Leah S. She asked, if we plan on modifying our premises, should we submit a plan diagram that matches the existing or proposed layout? And can we submit a premises modification request at the same time, or should one be submitted before the other?
Good question. So building and safety basically needs to see both. Your architect or engineer, they know how to do this, how to reflect these things on their plans. But basically, building and safety needs to see the existing floor plan, and they need to see, quote unquote, the proposed floor plan. So you need to show both on your plans. But again, that's your architect or engineer will know how to do that. Once building and safety has approved the plans, which is down the road, that's when I would advise that you submit an updated business premises diagram to DCR using the modification request.
Thank you, Rocky. The next question also comes from Leah. How do we handle plan submission if we have an outstanding premises modification request?
Leah, I would wait until building and safety approves the plans, approves the new layout before you submit anything to DCR, because building and safety may have you change things around. They might need wider corridors, they might need you to add a door or whatever it is. So those modifications will need to be reflected on the business premises diagram that you submit to us. So wait until building and safety approves that layout before you submit a modification to DCR requesting an updated business premises diagram. Because if my team, my compliance team is out there and they basically will want to verify that the field conditions match the business premises diagram that we have on file. So if it doesn't match, then my staff will issue a notice to correct so that the conditions match what's out. The BPD matches the field conditions. So wait until building and safety approves the plans before submitting a modification request to DCR.
Great. Thank you, Rocky. This one, Ryan, you're next. And it comes from Devin B. I currently have a storefront retail license. If I do an entity substitution, can I continue to operate while the new application is being processed? I want to avoid gaps in operations.
Hello again, everyone, and that is a fantastic question. Thank you very much. The short answer there is yes. You can continue operations under the original entity while the new entity and application works its way through our licensing process here at DCR. However, there's some important stuff to note with that. Before the new entity is approved to ultimately become operational, the old entity must formally request to cancel the original entity's license. And that can be done through DCR's application withdrawal and license cancellation form. The short form there is LIC 4015 form. That can be requested. You can find it online on our website, or you can reach out to your licensing analyst and they can provide it to you. So to just kind of summarize that up, the old entity must cancel their license before the new entity becomes operational.
Thank you, Ryan. We have a set of questions for Netanel. The first one comes from Jen M, and she asks, should I hire a permit runner, and what will the permit runner do for me?
That was a great question. Permit runner is basically taking, I will call it a headache, but take all the document stuff away from the client and run it through the city and communicate with the engineer / architect that you hire. That's basically what they do. They make it happen for you, so you don't have to bother go and do it yourself. You can still work and do whatever you need to do for your stuff without taking care about how the plans go, what the city said, what needs to be done.
Thank you for that. The next question comes from Michelle B. Should I have any documents prepared for the architect or engineer before I hire them?
If you have them, that would be helpful. Even though the architects will go ahead and do the research themselves to make sure that everything is accurate with the city.
Okay. And then Gianna A asks, can an architect / engineer help me fill out my LADBS building permit application?
Definitely. That's part of the job that they're supposed to do. They need to fill up all the application and submit it together with the plans, because they are the one that know what's going on in the building. If there is any modification or no, they are the one to put it on the plans.
And then the next question comes from Jack C. And he asks, will the architect I hire draw up all the necessary plans, or do I have to hire different architects, engineers for different segments?
So the goal for clients is to hire the architect who's going to do it all. Assuming that one architect submit everything and got approved, and then comes the second architect and change it, you just waste your time and your money as a client, and everything starts from the beginning. All the details needs to be on the first submission to the city, to LADBS.
Perfect, thank you. And then one additional question from Marco A. Will the person I hire help me until I get the certificate of occupancy?
That's the goal as a business. You need the certificate of occupancy. If it's not there, means that the job is not done. So whoever you hire needs to get you through the certificate of occupancy.
Thank you so much. This next question goes to Rocky.
Gidget, before I go on, can I just wanted to just add a few things to what Netanel said, just to expand, because I know we haven't touched on this whole, the topic of a permit runner or permit expediter. Yes, what he said is absolutely correct. You're hiring them so, they can hold all the headaches, because it is, the city is complicated. Basically, they're going to be, they go to the architect's or engineer's office, pick up the plans, go to building and safety, submit them. They can, in fact, prepare the application in order to submit the plans. And then once you get your clearance summary worksheet, they pick up the plans and then they run them to the different departments that where you're going to be needing clearances from. So they do all the running around for you, and that's why they're called permit runners. In your contract with them, to the question, will they help you get the C of O? It really depends on what is in your contract with these professionals. So, you can tell them, no, I just want you to, get me to permit submittal, or I want you to get me to permit issuance, or you want them to also manage the inspections. And I don't want to get too much into what the future milestones will require, but the latter part of all these milestones will require inspections by building and safety and other agencies. Some of those permit runners also have experience, managing construction projects, but not necessarily. You may have to hire somebody else if you don't want to deal with that. As far as other professionals, I know there was a question asked about, whether you're going to need to hire more folks. It really, above and beyond your architect or engineer who will be preparing the initial set of plans that you submit, It really depends on the activities that you're conducting. You can see the difference between somebody who has a 2,000 square foot retail facility, an engineer or architect might be able to handle everything from start to finish or something small like that. But if you have a bigger facility that includes manufacturing, cultivation, distribution, and it's much larger, you more than likely will need to also hire an electrical engineer, if you have to upgrade your electrical service. And it's a different submittal to the electrical engineering side of building and safety. They also have mechanical engineers, but your architect or engineer, that person will be, should advise you on other disciplines of professionals that you may need in order to get, your plan submitted and all the permits that you're going to need to get you to COO. I just wanted to add a few more things on that.
Thank you, Rocky. And if you don't mind, I'm going to jump back to a question that just came in to Net Now. And this comes from John J. Are there any factors between deciding on an architect versus an engineer, or are they basically interchangeable terms?
Not supposed to be a problem, even though the engineer is the one with the more knowledge, we call it. So you want to have an engineer backing everything up, even as an architect, some of them using an engineer to backing them up.
Is there anything you wanted to add there, Rocky?
What was the question?
Are there any? Yeah. So the question is, are there any factors between deciding between hiring an architect or an engineer?
Well, engineers, they're and I'm an engineer. We will design, the structure, right? So if you were building something new or doing an addition and you needed to show building and safety, like, the structural calculations, you would hire an engineer. But an architect, can handle, any kind of a tenant improvement, relocation of walls, demolition of walls, and they should be able to tell you, right? So if if you hire an architect and they might need to submit calculations. Sometimes they themselves have engineers as part of their companies that will do that for you. So I would start, with an architect and go from there.
Thank you. This question again for Netanel from Jen M. For cultivation electric plans, does the building need to show enough power just for the lights on during different phases, or all the lights on at the same time, even though that would never be the case?
Again, any changes of electrical, a building gets certain amount of amperage to the building. If modifying it, changing the electrical panel, even if it's not going to be used, it needs to be submitted with the electrical engineer with all the diagram to begin with. Even though it's not going to be used later or maybe going to be used later, you need to have it done.
Yeah, and that, I believe that, just to add to that, when those plans are submitted, just like Netanel was saying, your electrical engineer plan checker would tell you, how, if there's any corrections, right? They would tell you how to show a proper load diagram. And you may also have to submit those plans to DWP if you need to upgrade service. But, you'll start with your electrical engineer, submit those plans, and then building and safety will give you corrections back.
Correct.
Again, your architect should also be able to guide you. If you need an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, if you need to go more than just hiring an architect. And they oftentimes have staff that handles those different disciplines, as part of their company or their services.
Hey, Rocky, we're going to stay on you. A question from Emily H. So to confirm, the public health permit is not required by fall 2026. A However, a certificate of occupancy is required before the public health permit will be issued. So it makes sense that the public health permit be pushed back until after DCR requires the C of O.
So this might be, I think there's some confusion because a couple of years ago, we were encouraging folks that just had retail to go get their health department permit. And that was a one-time sort of a streamlined process that that we, in collaboration with the health department, put together. And in those instances, in order for you to get the health permit from the health department, we needed to show that you had a C of O for that use. But that was back then, and that was like a one-time streamlined process that's no longer in effect. What we're doing now is following the process that every other business in LA has to go through. You submit to building and safety, and then as part of the building plan check process, they will send you to the health department to submit plans to them so that they can review the plans and check it under their own code, right? And they will have to go to the site and verify to see if what you have on the plans actually matches what's in the field. Now, if it does, you might be able to get that health department permit before you even get your CFO. If you have to do construction, right, any kind, like if you have to demolish interior partitions and, construct new partitions and move things around to match the plans, after you get your permit, that's when you're going to start doing the construction. If you have to do that, then the health department will wait to give you the health department permit. Next year, we need you to at least have the clearance summary worksheet and show that you're in the process of getting all these clearances and other permits from other agencies. Like I said, if the health department can verify that what is on your plans matches the field conditions, they may be able to give you that health department permit. If not, they will wait until you're under construction and they can verify that in the field so that, they can sign off and actually give you that health department permit.
Thank you, Rocky. Ryan, you're up next. This question comes from John J. I know the milestones have changed recently. Are the new established milestones and dates expected now to be locked in, or is there a chance these milestones and goals may change again in the future?
Good question, John. Thank you. Well, certainly anything is possible. These deadlines are as locked in as they can be, and DCR has no plans to change these deadlines and requirements moving forward as we approach January 2031. You should be making your plans as if these requirements and timelines will not change. Please don't do the opposite and make business decisions or plans based on a hope that these deadlines will be pushed back. These timelines and deadlines and requirements, DCR built these based on discussions that we've had, many discussions we've had with LADPS, other city departments that are involved, to be a realistic and achievable timeline. It's really meant to be like a guide to a successful process here towards operating permit. This isn't something that's just a weeks or even months long process that you could figure out in 2030. If any of these milestones are pushed back, if we were to push these back closer to 2031, we would be setting you guys up to fail, not to succeed. So there's really not any leeway or cushion here to push these deadlines back any further. As the question mentioned, I know we did push back deadlines from the renewal cycle, the 2026 renewal cycle last fall to the 2027 renewal cycle this fall. But there's simply just no more room for any of that based on the discussions that we've had. So that's why I feel confident today, answering for you guys that DCR does not expect any of these deadlines to be pushed back.
Thank you, Ryan. And we're going to stick with you on this question from Eddie P. If doing a relocation, can you get the certificate of occupancy ahead of time to ensure no issues? What happens if there is a relocation, say around 27, 28 year? How do these rules come into play?
I think we're going to get back via email on that one after we do some additional research. We'll get back to Eddie on that one.
Thanks. Okay, switching over to Rocky, question from John J. If we have been operating a licensed retail dispensary for 3 years already and are not making any changes to the facility, do we still need to go through the process of hiring an architect, et cetera, or do we already have everything needed?
So if you only have retail, the process should be a lot simpler. But you still need to show, you still need to go through this process. What I would do is do the research. A couple of years ago, my staff did the research for about 240 locations. And we had all research done, and we basically one by one gave them to building and safety along with the business premises diagram that you guys submitted to us. And building and safety then determined whether the existing certificate of occupancy that's in their database, building and safety database, if that was appropriate for the retail use being conducted by licensees. If they deem that yes, it's an existing certificate of occupancy, you may not have to go through this process. You still will have to get a health department permit though. So what I would do is do the research and get in touch with, you can get in touch with us at DCR enforcement at lacity.org once you do that research. And we can go ahead and talk with building and safety and see if that, if your existing CFO, will qualify you to obtain, not to go through this process, but you will still need to go and submit to the health department. They will just need an email from us letting them know that we'll confirm that you have a valid certificate of occupancy. And this is only for retail.
Thank you, Rocky. I checked with staff, and in the queue, I don't see any more questions.
Oh, and I was just told that DCR is holding a webinar specific for the public health permit milestone on July 29th. So please RSVP and submit those questions. I think everybody can see those chats. Good. So we have those dates on the screen. Go ahead and save the date, RSVP, ask your questions, get prepared, and don't leave things to the last minute, please. And I'm being told that links will be on the DCR events page. So make sure that you check, which is right now on the screen. Okay, well. I think that's about it. Thank you, everybody, and good luck. We're here for you if you have any questions. Have a wonderful summer day.